Welcome back to Indie Rebel VFX, Hollywood effects without the Hollywood budget. I'm your instructor, Chris Temple, and in this special bonus course, I'm going to teach you about poster design. As independent filmmakers, we love posters, we love collecting them, and we dream of seeing our own movies on posters too. And so now by the end of this course, you're going to be able to do just that. I'm going to walk you through how we designed the poster for our short film Ruby and show you just some tips and tricks for blending 4 or 5 different elements together and making it feel like a cohesive whole. So let's get going with this. Alright, let's get going. First thing I want to do is fire up Adobe Bridge. And this is what I use to kind of keep my photos organized as I travel and such. I'm snapping photos all the time with my SLR, sometimes even with my smartphone. And when I get back, I can organize them in here. So I have some landscape shots that I shot from a trip this summer down to Wyoming. And what I want to do is find one that's going to make a good background for our poster. So I'm just kind of tab through these here a bit. That one's got some potential to it. But I think this might be the one. This is a good choice. What I can do, and what we're going to do, is we're going to put a city back here. We're going to have Ruby in the foreground, the asphalt that she's standing on, and we're going to make it look like it bleeds off into the countryside behind here. So let's just go ahead and I think, yeah, this is going to be good. So I'm going to right click it and click Open with Adobe Photoshop. Alright, while that finishes opening, let's go and bounce back over here. And I'm going to go to Pictures. And inside my Indie Rebel folder, I have a folder called Ruby. And now we can look at some of the green screen stuff that I did. So what happened is while I was out filming with Alex, I told her, I said, hey, I need to get some poster shots. I think it'd be fun to show everybody how to make movie posters. And so we got quite a few of these. And what we can do now is just kind of go through and find the one we like the best. So that's kind of a nice shot right there. Kind of the classic Resident Evil looking down kind of pose, looking up, looking straight at the camera. This is actually the one I used on the official poster. So just to mix things up, I think I'm going to try a different one. Let's see, there's that one. Or maybe that one. At the end of the day, I feel like this is definitely the more aggressive looking one. So I think we'll try this one here. This will be good. So all we got to do is just like before, we're going to right click, open with Adobe Photoshop. All right, now that I've got my 2 shots, what we need to do is we're going to start off by merging these together, but before we can do that, we need to set up a canvas. Movie posters in particular have a very distinct aspect ratio to them. They're 24 inches wide by 36 inches tall. So let's just go File, New, and we're going to create something just like that. So I'm going to flip this over to inches here, and we want to go 24 inches wide by 36 inches tall. So now we've got our canvas size right here. Yeah? Cool. So first things first, let's go ahead and take the background, and we'll just copy and paste the whole thing. So copy and paste. Now we go Control T and Shift drag on the corners to kind of scale this down a bit. And what we want to do is just kind of find a general area that kind of works well. And what I like is I like this little valley that's back here. It's kind of a good spot to put the city into. So we're going to go ahead and frame that up like that. And go ahead and hit Enter to lock that into place. Alright, let's go ahead and grab Ruby. I'm going to come from just above her head. And then I want to make sure I keep the ground so I've got some room to play with that. And again, Control C. Back over to our poster. Control V. Alright, Control T. Shift. Left click and drag. Let go with the mouse. Alright. Now, there's a few ways I could go about doing this. One of the more popular ones might be to have somebody off-centered if you wanted, to make it look a little bit more interesting. You could do something like that. But we do want to make sure to feature the gun because Ruby is the ultimate badass. So I'm gonna just go front and center with her about like this, and really just make her the focal point of the shot. So I think somewhere right around here will be really good, and that gives us room for a title up top, and we can have our building block down here on the bottom. So go ahead and enter there. And all I really want to do is just gonna kind of do a garbage mat around here like this. So I want to be able to have some room with the stuff here to take it out. And come around over here, trying to keep roughly the same height. Up and around, and to here. Okay, hit delete. That clears off that. Good. All right, next step is to get rid of the green background behind her. Now we all know how to pull a key in Natron and in our compositors, but let's go ahead and see how we do one here inside of Photoshop. Simply come up to Select, Color Range. With that done, I can go ahead and click my main selection eyedropper here, click on the green. Now you can see it didn't all get it. There's a little bit of shadow here, and when I look at my matte itself, I can still see a little bit of shadow there. So I'm going to hit the plus eyedropper so I can add to it. And we're just going to add to the selection like that. Okay, good. I can come up and play with the fuzziness a bit and just turn that down. And that just makes sure I have a really nice clean matte selecting only the green. When you're done, hit OK. And then hit delete. And all that green instantly just goes away. So pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. Let's go ahead now and clean up the edge of our ground here a little bit. So what I want to do is, let's go ahead and zoom in a bit. I want to kind of make the ground look rough and uneven, kind of like it is already because I just traced this by hand. I want to bring it up behind her coat. And same thing over here, and that way I don't have to erase anything from down on the back side of the coat here. So it's like the ground is just kind of this weird, twisty, organic shape. So let's go to our eraser, and we'll just use a normal circular eraser. And we want to make the hardness 100%. That means that when we start erasing, we get a really hard edge like that. So I'm just going to kind of clean up a little bit here around the gun. And we're going to just start roughing in where this is all going to go. So it kind of comes up from there, come off the boot, down, and over here like that. That'll be good. Go ahead and clean that. Awesome. Let's go and zoom in a bit more. Now once we're in this close, we can actually see what's going on. There are other tools we can use. So we can use like the quick select tool, just come in here and start cleaning this up a bit. So I'm going to make sure to save the gun like that. That's good. But it selects everything else. I could hit delete, cleans that up. Good. Back to the eraser. Actually, back to the rectangular selection to clear my selection. Back to the eraser. Let's shrink our eraser down. And just go ahead and try to get the edge of the barrel there like that. That looks really good. Clean up this line here. Do the same thing here. Clean that up. And that. I can press and hold spacebar to bring up a hand, and that allows me to pan around my shot a little bit. And you can see we have some green here, but that's okay. We can kill that with some spill suppression in a little bit. Back over to this side here. And once again, I'm going to use the quick select to kind of get the initial one. Hit delete. And I'm going to have to do the boots by hand just because they are so similar to the asphalt that I'm trying to erase. So go back to the eraser. Let me just clean this up a little bit. Now when I was a kid, we didn't have Photoshop. It was seen as kind of a frivolous thing that we couldn't afford. However, we did have Microsoft Paint. And I used to spend hours in Paint doing all sorts of fun stuff like decapitating friends and that kind of thing. So for me, Photoshop is kind of a real godsend, having come from a background of MS Paint. But, it just goes to show that if you're really creative and you know your software, you can really do a whole lot. And by the way, this is like MS Paint back on Windows 95, not MS Paint like it is today. So it was definitely quite a bit different. All right, let's go and zoom out and see where we're at. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut this line in a bit more. I don't like how it just loops out behind her like that. So let's go ahead and zoom in. Hit E to bring up my eraser again. Let's make it a bit larger. And just kind of freehand in the line a bit more, making sure to kind of round it off here. You don't want it to be too hard. Okay, that's good. Let's go and shrink it down. We go right up to the edge of her coat. Now, ideally, I would have had my full-size green screen out and have put Ruby on top of that when we did the photography. However, not many people have a full-size green screen. And honestly, the Chroma Pop's just a lot more convenient, so I figured I'd show you guys how to do it with the Chroma Pop instead. And you can see, really all we needed the green screen for was for her hair up here. And it just helped give us a cleaner key around that. Speaking of edges, wow, look at that. That all needs to go away. Let's just make a big ol' eraser. Take that all out. And continuing down. All the way down the edge. Okay, that looks good. Check out the other side. Going up. Ah, yep, see, there's the line. Right through here. And going up. Okay, that's good. Let's go ahead and zoom out. Fit on screen. Excellent. This is looking really nice now. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. All right, let's go ahead and start kind of cleaning this up a little bit before we get too far along with starting to do colors in the city and all the other stuff. By the way, too, it's always good to come in and start labeling our things. So we're going to call this layer Ruby, and we're going to call this layer Desert. Okay, good. So for cleanup, let's go ahead and zoom in to her face, and we'll start with that. This is just basic cosmetics. Alex is obviously a very attractive young lady, but it's always good, especially when you're doing movie posters, to just kind of clean things up a little bit. So what I want to do is come to my spot healing brush, and we'll shrink it way, way, way down, and we'll just go ahead and kind of clean up a little bit on her. And it helps, by the way, to select the actual layer. There we go. Little thing on the chin. Clean up under here on the eyes a little bit. Oop, too much. It's always a fine line. Okay, we'll just call that one good. Clean up a few little freckle things on her face. Clean up that one I made on her chin a bit more. And sometimes this eraser tool does more harm than good, and if that happens, just go ahead and flip over to your clone stamp tool and just use that. Yeah, that worked out well. Let's go ahead and clean up that. Once you get in this close, you can really start seeing all the little freckles and things, and we just paint them out. Paint them out like happy little trees. Okay. Cool. Zooming back out, fit on screen. That's good. Make sure her legs are flawless. Got a little bit of marks on there. Let's clean those up again real quick. I'm going to go back to my spot healing brush just because it is so quick and easy to do stuff. Okay, that's good. Alright, now the other thing we want to do is kind of clean up the jacket a little bit because it looks like she slept in this the night before, and although that's probably what the character would have done, it's not quite what we're going for. So I'm just going to use my spot healing brush on here, and you can see it really just kind of smooths things out quite a bit. Now we're not going to be able to get this perfect, but we can definitely make it a lot better than what it was. You can see it looked like somebody had way too much fun with the starch on this thing. And again, we're just using the spot healing brush to clean this up. So you can see it's a lot more even now. It still has some texture to it, but it's definitely a lot better looking than what it was. If you feel bold, go ahead and do larger areas at once. Okay, moving up the jacket a little. Okay, zooming out. Yeah, that looks a lot better than what it was before, so that's good. Alright, what we want to do now is go ahead and add in our city backdrop. So I already know I don't want the sky, so let's just go and grab our quick select tool, go down to the desert layer, turn Ruby off for a moment, and let's make this quick selection a bit larger, and we'll just select the sky and clear that out. We're gonna add our own sky here in just a few. Okay, so we'll start with that, and let's go ahead and find a city we can bring in. Go back into bridge, and I'm gonna go back to my stock photos, city. This is the one that we used earlier. We do have another one here, but I really like the one from earlier, so we'll just go ahead and stick with that one. Right click, open with Adobe Photoshop. All right, just like before, use the quick select tool, and let's go ahead and grab the skyline. Okay, so far so good. I'm gonna shrink it down a bit. Now this will be a destroyed city again, just like we did for the map painting. But so that means that your selection doesn't have to be completely perfect, because we are going to be really destroying the snot out of these buildings anyway. But still go ahead and try to do the best you can. It's always better to be able to choose to erase stuff rather than being stuck with the crummy selection. I really like the detail over here on this part. That looks cool. Alright. And I kind of like this uneven shape I'm getting here, how it comes up with the trees. And let's go and bring it back down to the trees this way. And then we've got this little patch of tree here. That's really going to help this blend in, I think. So let's go ahead and Control C to copy that. Go back to our poster and Control V. Okay. Control T. And just start scaling it down a little bit here. This is a nice size. And look, check this out. See? Remember how it dropped down here a little bit? Check this out. That fits perfectly right into the valley like that. And just, it looks really natural looking when you do that with it. So like it almost looks like it belongs there, which is pretty cool. So we'll go ahead and call that good. Hit enter. Hit V to bring up your selection tool. And now we can just kind of tweak this a little bit. Maybe like that. So we get a little bit more of the trees over there. That's good. And now we can go through and start trying to match the buildings to the desert. So I want to first come up to adjustments and levels. And we'll just add some contrast to the shot. That's good. Alright, now let's go and try to match the tone a little bit. Kind of keep it back in this brownish green color. So we'll go Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. And what I want to do is probably try to isolate my yellows. And then I'll move that into my oranges too, because you can see it's a lot of orange base kind of thing up there, like that. And with that, we can now try to rotate our hue around a little bit until we come up with a color that we like. Maybe more towards the reds like that, and we'll pull some saturation out. There we go. I'm also watching my greens here on these trees and trying to make sure that those can start to match a little bit more. Let's rotate back through the hues a little, maybe somewhere around here. It's kind of nice. And okay. Cool. Now let's just go ahead and kind of clean up the bottom edge through here and make sure that's really looking good. So you can see we got like some extra junk and stuff. So we'll go back to our eraser. And this time, let's go ahead and choose one of our pattern brushes. Let's see how this is. A bit too flowery, but that might actually work for us here. Turn the size way down. Yeah. There we go. Just like that. And what we're looking to do is just really try to erase any hard edges, anything that gives away the fact that this is a composite shot. So that looks pretty good through here. Let's go ahead and take that out a little bit. Just anything that stands out that it's a composite. That side looks pretty good too. You can see how it just kind of melts all together. And when you get this close, it doesn't always look right. But when we get back out to the full shot, it's like, wow, yeah, that actually looks pretty good. All right, we're gonna call this the city. And let's go through and maybe destroy some more of these buildings here. So I'm going to zoom back in. And let's find some of our destruction brushes. So we'll go eraser. This is a fun one. Number 660. Okay. And I just want to go ahead and start taking chunks out of these buildings here. Especially from the tops of them. It's usually one of the first places where erosion and all that takes place. Sorry, I get focused sometimes and I forget I'm supposed to be talking you guys through what I'm doing and what I'm thinking here. This will be a nice big hole right there in that one. And same thing from the bottom there and a little bit right there. Okay. We can now go to our paint brushes with B. And back to kind of another grungy tool again, like this. Scale it down. Okay. And I'm going to change my opacity to 69. And we just want to start adding some dark stuff to these buildings. Just like we did before. By now you should be getting very fast at doing this. Some pieces can be darker than others. That's good. Don't forget to do some stuff down here because it kind of gives the illusion of smoke. That's good. Bring up our brushes. And we can rotate it a little bit too, just to mix it up a bit. That might be a bit much. There we go. All right. I think at this point that's good. Now you can do this as much as you want or as little as you want. That's really part of the fun of it, is you get to be creative. Fit that back on screen. That's good. Let's bring Ruby back up. Okay. And we need to add kind of a really nasty sky to the background. So I'll pop back over to Bridge. And I do have some skies in here. Let's see if we can find one that we like. Ooh, this one's good. I like this one. This is perfect. We'll go ahead and open with Photoshop. Very nice. So we'll just copy that part of it, jump back to our poster, and paste it. All right, big sky. And we go ahead and press Control T to scale it down a bit. Now what I actually want to do here too, we'll just go ahead and hit Enter for now. I want to make sure I layer this back where I want it to be, which is right behind the desert, so it's at the farthest back layer. Now I'll go back to Control T on this again, and I can make sure I'm sizing this to be where I want it to be. So we can choose a section. It's kind of nice like that. I like that. That'll be good. Hit Enter. All right, if I look back to the desert layer, I can see a line up here, so let's go ahead and clear that line out. So we'll select the desert, delete that line there, and make sure there's no line on the edge here. Looks like Ruby's got a little bit of a edge on her here too. Pull that out. Okay. All right. So now we've got the basic elements in place. Let's just go ahead, because this is bothering me right now. Clean up that right there. I'll just use my clone stamp tool. Press Alt, and we'll just clone that in. I want to make sure I use a hard brush this time too. Okay, that cleans that up. So let's go ahead and start massaging these colors a little bit more and really try to make everything just fit in together. By the way, I'm going to rename my sky. So now we've got sky, desert, city, and Ruby. Okay, that all looks good. Save. And let's see here. I don't know what this white thing is down there. I don't like that either. I'm just going to paint that out real quick too. There we go. Much better. Good as new. So to massage the colors, what I want to do is I probably want to merge the city and the desert first, although we kind of already did that. So let's go ahead and actually start with Ruby now and give her kind of the right tone that we want, and then we can get everything else dialed in from there. So I'm going to come up to Image, Adjustments, and Levels first, and I'm going to start playing with the levels for her. Now I would like seeing the detail in the black, so I'm not going to crunch it up to here like I normally would. I'm going to leave that out a bit to here, but still adds just a little bit of contrast to her. And then use my mids here to kind of dial in the contrast a bit more. We don't want to go too heavy with the contrast. Okay, that's alright. Hit OK. Go back to Image, Adjustments, and this time Curves. I think we need to pull some blue out. That's going to leave red and green, which makes yellow. So we start pulling out blue, and she starts sliding towards yellow, which is good. Now, we don't want to go too far with her. Just a little bit. Alright. Hit OK. What I want to do now is I want to select her skin tones, and then that way we can put those on their own layer and control her skin tone separately from everything else. So let's just go ahead and grab the quick select. And I'm just going to come in here and grab her skin. I want to erase the jacket. We don't want that. And maybe get a little bit more right there. That's good. Shrink this down, grab her hand, grab that hand, and then we go up here to refine edge. What I want to do now is smooth it, feather the snot out of that, about like that maybe a bit less, somewhere around here. Hit OK, and then press Control J on Windows, Command J on Mac. That puts it onto its own layer. We'll call this Ruby Skin. Now, if I come back to Ruby herself and I start playing with my colors a bit more, so we go Adjustments, Curves, back to red. Actually, let's go back to blue. I start pulling more blue out. I pull it only out of the scene, but her skin tone remains the same, and that really, I think, makes that a lot nicer. Doing it that way, yeah, that's good. Alright, hit OK. Let's go up to her skin. Go Image, Adjustments, Vibrance. And what I want to do is just add some vibrance to her skin a little bit. Makes her pop. That's good. Hit OK. Let's go and take the city and the desert, and we will merge those together with Control E. And we'll just call this BG for background. Image, Adjustments, and start with the levels. Crunch that in. Let's go ahead and darken it just a bit. It's got way too much magenta in it too for my like, so we'll go ahead and go to our curves and go to red and kind of pull some reds out of this. Not too much from there. Okay, then we go to our blues. We pull that out. So you can see it's just all instantly shifted towards that kind of yellow golden color. That's good, that's what we want to do with it. That's looking better. Let's see, back up here to curves again. Actually, let's try this. Go Image, Adjustments, Exposure. I want to kind of darken it just ever so slightly. Maybe somewhere around there. That actually brightened it. We'll hit cancel. Let's try darkening up the sky. Maybe that's what we're missing here. Back to levels. Make the sky dark and ominous. There we go. Hit OK. And then go into vibrance. Let's pull the vibrance out of the sky. Hit OK. I also want to pull some blue out. I don't like having the blue sky back there at all. So what I may do is actually just come up here, back to vibrance, and just pull the saturation out completely. Like that. And now I can go into my curves, back to blue, pull the blue out, shifting it towards yellow. So you can see kind of our tone that we're going for is kind of this brown yellow tone. Now, since I've started doing this, we can really start seeing this nasty green here around Ruby. So we'll go back up to her, and let's go Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. I'm going to select greens and really make sure I get a wide range of the green here, probably even into the blues. And then we just come down here and pull the saturation out. You can see instantly cleans the edges up. You can also darken it if you want to give her a little bit harder edge. You can lighten it as well to make it look like she's being backlit from behind. But I find something probably around here. Looks pretty good. Okay. Looking at this now, I think I want to take my background and lower it a bit. I don't like this sandy patch here, so I'm actually going to clone from like this area here. So we come over to our clone stamp, make the thing bigger. Okay, and we're only on the background here. And then let's go ahead and soften this. So I'm going to go Alt and click here. And now we're just going to kind of paint in some new stuff back here. There we go. That's much better already. Let's go ahead and paint this out too, I think. There we go. And then now I can take this side and kind of paint over that. What I'm trying to do is just try to get rid of the scale factor, so it looks like that we're much it looks like we're maybe closer to it than we actually are, and it's gonna really blend this in pretty well. What we can do now is actually come around here on the bottom edge and start painting in some grasses and such too. So let's go ahead and go to our paintbrush and go down to the natural pack. And if we come down here, you can see we actually have some grass. It's big grass though. We want little grass. Somewhere right around here, that's good. And then I'm going to kind of create like a brownish color. Go to our orange. That'll be good. Maybe a bit more towards yellow. Something like that, kind of this khaki. And let's go ahead and turn up our opacity for now. Let's go and try just a little bit first and see how it looks. Again, I'm doing it on the background, so it's going to come up behind the edge here in Ruby. And you almost can't even see it. I think it's too light. Let's go and darken that up. There we go. So we're just kind of adding in, adding in the impression that the grass comes all the way up to here. Like that. Now we're going to shift this to a slightly different color. Maybe a little bit brighter for some highlights, and then choose a different grass brush. That'll be a good one. Turn the size down. And we're just going to add some more accents with this. Okay, that's good. Let's go back to kind of a grunge brush. That's not a grunge brush. Something kind of grungy like that. And I want to go to kind of a almost black but not quite kind of color. Pull up my brush palette here. Let's go ahead and scale it down. Too much. There we go. And I want to rotate it this way. Too far. There we go. And play with the opacity a little bit, maybe down here to like 57%. What we're going to do is just kind of start clicking into here a bit on Ruby herself. And what I want to do is kind of create the illusion that the pavement kind of crumbles off a little bit. So do that. Being careful not to get onto Ruby, of course. And we'll rotate it the other direction maybe. And darken up our gray a bit. Just go like down to black. Same thing as before. And just a little bit of an accent in places. So now you can see we got, it looks like kind of the cement just crumbled away, leaving her kind of isolated here like that. That's good. All right, looking at this, I still feel like this whole area back here is too bright for me. So we'll go back to the background, throw away the brushes, we don't need those. And let's try it with curves this time. Go to RGB. We'll see if we can't just kind of darken it a bit. Like that. That's better. Because remember, the focal point needs to be the girl. So that's pretty good like that. And I would say now we can probably vignette this thing. So what I'm going to do for this is add a layer right above the background and sky, but underneath Ruby and her skin. And then I want to make this layer black. So we're going to come down to our paint bucket and just make that whole thing black like that, okay? Once we've done that, and you know what, actually I may put this above everything. Yeah. I'm going to make this turned off so I can't see it right now. Come over here, come to our elliptical marquee. And what we want to do is just kind of isolate Ruby. About like this. Turn that layer back on. And go to Refine Edge. From here, we can feather this thing out like crazy. About like that. And hit OK. Alright, once we've done that, just go ahead and hit delete. And you can see we got this nice kind of vignette effect around the entire shot. And I'm going to take the opacity of this down quite a bit. Maybe to somewhere around here. I also like putting her skin tone up above the top, just to be sure that it's not vignetted out at all. Again, we want her skin to pop. We're getting pretty close to wrapping this up. This is looking good. Let's go ahead and do her title now, her name. So we're going to come down and just add a text layer. And we're going to call this Ruby. First thing I want to do is choose a new font. So I'm just going to start scrolling through these here till I find one that I like. And I like this one, Lithos Pro. So that looks good. I'm going to make this one bold. No, not bold. Back to regular. Indecision, skewed flexibility, right? Okay, we want the color to be kind of a deep red because she is Ruby, after all. Somewhere right around here, that looks good. And let's go ahead and increase the size to 200. Perfect. Grab your selection tool and choose where you want to put the title. In this case, I'm going to go for just about dead center. I right click on the title, go to blending options. We want to add some depth to this here. So one of the ways we can do that is with a drop shadow. And that's going to help make this thing pop out a bit here. And it's just a matter of tweaking these settings just ever so slightly. That looks good. Some other fun ones to play with are bevel and emboss. You can see how that works like that. Again, just making kind of, we're trying to go for like that ruby-ish feel. We want to make it feel like it's made out of a ruby. Sometimes satin can be a good one to do with that too. You can see how it adds, it looks like some refraction to it. And I think we can call that part good. So hit OK. All right, now that we've done that, every poster needs its catchphrase. So let's go ahead and add another text box off to the side here. And we're going to turn the size of this way down to like 80 pixels. We're going to type in with caps, "It wasn't her mess. ... She's picking up the pieces." So that needs to be definitely smaller. Try 48. There we go. I'm going to enlarge the text box so I can get just 2 lines like I want it. That's good. We're going to make this white. Okay, and let's go Control T, scale that down a bit. Maybe right there, like that. Now I'm also going to go into my blending options for this, drop shadow, and I'm gonna really just make sure that there's a big one behind there. And what I'm trying to do, you can see, is just kind of darken it up a little bit so you can actually read what the text says. So by increasing the size of the shadow, you can see what that does. And if I didn't have the spread on, like, the spread just kind of helps feather that a bit more too. So between the size and the spread is what we want to play with. And that's good. That just darkens it up and helps make that pop a bit. All right, at this point, we are good. You can now go ahead and add your building block if you want for whatever your poster is. And the way building block fonts work is that typically lowercase will give you one set of letters, like executive producer, director, directed by, edited by, all that kind of stuff. And then with caps or shift, you get your actual letters. So let me go ahead and pull it up real quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about, and then we'll wrap this up. All right, so the font I'm going to be using is called Steel Tongs. Again, you can download this off the internet. And I have not included it because I did want to make sure that we respect rights and privacy and things. So make sure you guys go to the link I've provided in the text file if you would like to download this, okay? So with this selected, I can hit like an A, and it comes up with one word that says written by. And if I hold Shift A, I actually get the letter. Let me go and zoom in so you guys can see. I'll just put some text down here to start with, and let's get out of there. Let's zoom in. There we go. And we'll open this. We'll go and start editing this again. So what you do typically is, I would say, in my case, Indie Rebel presents a Chris Temple film. I'll just do that as a line, then I'll go down to the next line. Alex Fox, and then in quotes, Ruby. Now, I'm going to go into my lowercase letters, so I hit caps lock to turn that off. I'm just going to start seeing what we have here. So I might say visual effects by, and then I hit caps again. Stars, digital. And then space, caps off, go through these again. Edited by, that's good. So that's a lowercase e. Edited by Chris Temple. So again, I turn caps on for that. And what this does, you can see, is it just gives you that whole blocky, multi-line, single line look to it. Now another thing that I'll do is I'll come up here afterwards then and select anything that's not a main word, and I'll lower this by 12 points. And so I'll do the same thing here for the word film. And we'll lower it from 48 to 36. And that just, again, helps give me a little bit of a size variation to help make the important names stand out. So when we're done with all that, go ahead and click out and zoom out. And you've got your building block. Go ahead and position it where it needs to be. Not the sky. Here we go, building block. Right down there in your building block can contain as much or as little information as you want. I suggest looking up online what is involved with one and finding one that works for you. Feel free to use the example from the actual poster, which I have included with this course. And that's really all there is to it. So you can see we had three main elements. We had the city, we had the desert, we had Ruby, and we also found a sky that we liked for it as well. And poster design is really just about blending the elements together and coming up with something that looks fairly decent, fairly good. I might, if I wanted to, and I kind of do actually, come back in here and add some more saturation to Ruby's layer. So I'm just going to come in here and we'll go back to Vibrance, turn the saturation up a bit on that. Because what I want, whoop, too much. I really want her khaki jacket to kind of help kind of pop a bit too, a little bit more from the background. So maybe somewhere here. Something like that. It just adds a little bit more color to the shot. All right, now that you know the techniques of making a poster, go ahead and practice and apply them to your own masterpiece, and I will see you in the next training.